going for Big Ten title number 6, and we are underway here in Columbus. Michigan towards the middle of the screen there. And you see right away Oliver Hoare in the white of Wisconsin, asserting himself up front. But I think you touched on something important here, Gordon, the difference in field sizes. These 4 top teams, the last 2 times they've raced at Nuttycombe and at Joe Piani, have been in big fields. What's the difference here in scaling down?
Well, the difference is you don't have as many, obviously don't have many bodies around you, so you're able to find your teammates easier. You're able to run your own race easier because you're not at the mercy of a fast Kenyan up front, the way like Alabama would push it at Notre Dame, or Edwin Kurgat could push it at Nuttycombe. So you know that basically the top guys in Mao, Hoare, and Couchet are the ones who are actually going to control the race. Whereas you know those guys. You know the guys who are control the race. You know how they run, you know what their strengths, what their weaknesses are. So you just have more data on your competition, and it makes it a little easier to know when a move is too hard, when a move is too soft, to be able to prepare for that final 2K in the race.
So this course in Columbus has a little hairpin turn to begin with, and then they're going to do 3 loops around a lake on the golf course and then come back and retrace their steps to go to the finish. So they're going to go out here, then they're going to go and run 3 loops, 3 identical loops, and then come back in. So far, you see Wisconsin there up front, 2 white jerseys. I also saw Kyle Mao up front, and then in the red on the outside closest to us, that's George Kusha of Nebraska. So we're just 2 minutes into this race. You see there now they're going to double back and then head out onto the loop. Kyle Mao there in the middle of the screen for Indiana. Gordon mentioned him as one of the potential people who could upset Oliver Hoare. He was 4th at the Joe Piani meet, 10th at Nuttycombe. In NCAA Cross last year, he was 49th, but 7th in this meet. But he's a Big Ten champion. He's won titles on the track for the Hoosiers.
So a lone Badger there up front, kind of leading the charge here. Setting the pace here early, just 2:30 into the race, looking over his shoulder a bit, realizing, hey, where are my teammates? Got to find my teammates. As you can see, it's a lot of little zigzag there in that moment. The kart cam kind of running around the trees, but nothing really happening yet. Very conservative, I would say, early on. Typically, that's how cross country goes. That first K, it's just getting your feet wet.
Yeah, and they're just through 1K right now. Reminds me a bit last year of the Big Ten Championship course in Lincoln that Nebraska hosted, with a lot of zigs and zags and turns. It was a bit different. Now this thing will even out, and eventually they'll just do some nice smooth loops, but it was very different than where the National Championship course was. Last year was nice and big and wide and plenty of chances to move.
Yeah, so we already have a team score update through 1K. Wisconsin, as you see all those white jerseys up front, they have a commanding lead with 20 points. Penn State and Purdue in second with 113. Team scores at 1K mark really don't mean much. It just shows that Wisconsin decided to get out early, so they controlling the race with their top 5 in the top 7.
So now they're on the first of those 3 loops. Seth Hirsch there from Wisconsin in the front of that pack. Also Jackson Sharp, Olin Hacker as well.
Jackson Sharp, a new Aussie to the team. Got to keep that. Once Oliver Hoare is gone, they're going to need another Aussie to keep the Aussie trend going. So Jackson Sharp, true freshman, looking to continue that international flavor in Madison.
And last year, Wisconsin dominated this race, led by McDonald and Hoare, and they ran away with it. Kind of harkened back to the earlier years of Wisconsin, because between 2012 and 1999, they won every year. They ran off championship after championship. That went away a little bit. Indiana took them down, eventually broke the streak in 2013, but Wisconsin's always in the picture. They won it in 2014, 2016, and then 2018. So trying to go back-to-back for the first time since their reign ended.
And looking good early on. Like I said, they have their entire top 5 in that front of the pack. They can see, looks like, and you don't even see, it's not Hoare and Hacker who are there. That's, you know, Hirsch and Jackson Sharp who are doing the lead. And now it looks like Morgan Beadlescomb of Michigan State starting to take over here at the 5-minute mark.
Beadlescomb mentioned ran really well at the Nuttycombe meet, but he's an experienced Big Ten runner going back to 2017. He was 5th at the Big Ten championships. Last year indoors, he was 7th in the 5K at Big Tens. Then outdoors, he was 3rd in the 5,000. Made the NCAA championship in that 5,000. That was a tough race to make the final of last year with all those big names, and he ended up 13th. So watch out for Beadlescomb, running really well right now. A lot of Wisconsin up there on the left of the screen. Waiting for Purdue to emerge, and there I see some Boilermakers up front as expected too.
Yeah, Purdue's trio of Brody Smith, Jarrett Carpenter, and Kurt Eckstein have been impressive. You know, those three I think could all finish All-American at NCAAs, and if Purdue puts 3 in the top 40, doesn't matter where their 4 or 5 is, that's going to potentially be a top 10 finish overall for the program, which is pretty impressive for Purdue. I mean, they haven't won Big Ten since, when was it?
1943.
There you go.
1943. Yeah, we got to look at that trio early on, the John McNichols meet. They were so poised, so solid, ran together amongst some good competition. So we're getting now 2,000-meter splits, and it's Seth Hirsch there on the left for Wisconsin. Everybody's still packed in together. Nathan Milanek of Iowa in the middle, the senior, and then Beadlescomb to his left. Carpenter in the mix for Purdue. Jackson Sharp, you mentioned him. Mao, Daniel Murphy, Ben Eidenschenk, Olin Hacker. So everybody in good position, but still very, very early. I wonder if this was a concerted effort by Wisconsin to try to get the pace moving a little bit, or if this has just been a natural reaction to how this race started off.
I mean, yeah, but the pace still hasn't really, no one's really, I mean, they're slowed down there in that second K. They went out in 3:02. Now they're at 6:15, so they ran a 3:13 last K. We just got to wait till they start running those sub-3-minute Ks before the race really starts developing.
A little bit of a breeze out there. You see the flags blowing a little bit in Columbus. Perhaps that could be slowing things down. We saw that was a big factor in Nuttycombe, I think, with both the team and the individual race impacting where people made their moves. Big hill right there.
Yeah, it's 45 degrees right now in Columbus, Ohio, with 11-mile-per-hour winds. So that could be a factor of why they're going out conservative.
Seth Hirsch there. Up front still. He's taking the wind on. And then that's George Kusha for Nebraska on the left. Looking around a little bit. Last year was his first year running cross country, running 8,000 meters. He's a miler, as you mentioned, came over from South Africa, was interested in the academic offerings of Nebraska. That's what brought him to the school. Obviously, Nebraska has a history with South African athletes, going back to Peter Van de Westhuizen, and took to NCAA really well last year and has been now a mainstay in these Big Ten championships, regardless of the distance.
Yeah, it would be interesting if Kusha and Hoare and even Kyle Mao are all in it with a conservative first 7K, and then they really hammer that last K. We'll have a very sprint finish because you have guys who are sub-4 milers, NCAA champion in Hoare, so it'll be interesting to see how the kicking on the grass will develop if they continue this slow pace.
And now Michigan has started to assert themselves on the left. As we mentioned, their strength is in their pack. Their strength is in 1 through 5, and maybe in a conference championship setting where, hey, they're not going to have a guy in the top 5, but if they can get all their scorers into the top 15 or 20, then they can make some noise.
I'm trying to understand who's going to be the guy who makes it honest. Like, who's going to be that man who's like, all right, we're moving now. It probably won't happen until at least 5K based on what we're seeing now. Because look at them, they look like they're out for a jog right now. The entire Big Ten is just like coming through together as one giant blob through this first 3K. No one really wants to race just yet. And it'll be interesting to see who's that sacrificial lamb who's like, all right, we're moving, boys.
So for Michigan, Just Platnick is up front Also Jack Aho and Devin Meyer, who has led Michigan last couple meets, been the top Wolverine. And the scores at 3,000 meters, Wisconsin 55, Michigan 65, Michigan State 111, Purdue 140. But as you see, everybody's jammed in really tight.
And diving into those 3K splits, Wisconsin's 7th man is currently in front of Michigan's 5th man. So Wisconsin is keeping not just their top 5, but their entire top 7 in that front group up there with Michigan and Michigan State.
Indiana back in 8th, led by Mao, who's running in 7th place in the split, but fractions of a second are making up huge differences in the team split, so that'll change once people start going. So now Kusha towards the front, or as well. I think we're going to get this going once we have more than one of the big names working together to try to push this pace. They've started out now on their second loop of 3. A little bit of separation. You see a few runners dropping off in the back. Wisconsin's still doing really well, though, to keep a lot of guys up there in the mix. Now, they didn't run well at Joe Piani. They got beat by Michigan. Bounced back, ran pretty well at Nuttycombe. I know in the COAS projections for a while you had them last team in. How important is this race for Wisconsin as a team?
Well, Wisconsin got it done at Nuttycombe. They got their points they needed. So they're pretty smooth sailing now to get to nationals. A lot of these Big Ten teams are pretty smooth. This is kind of be icing on the cake for the points that either of these Big Ten teams get against each other, because I think it's very strong to say that Wisconsin, Michigan, Indiana, and Purdue are all going to go to NCAAs 3 weeks from now.
George Kusha up there, accompanied by some Michigan Wolverines as they twist and turn. So we're just at 4K. You can see the distance there on the bottom right of your screen, so you know exactly where they're at all times. So they're halfway through this course.
So there's the 4K mats right there.
Right there, yeah, a little early. So we'll get that split.
Ooh, and a little change of scenery here. It looks like Michigan taking over the lead, slight lead over Wisconsin, 49 points for Michigan to Wisconsin's 54. Again, it's virtually a tie again because you see everyone's entire group in that front pack of 30 or so athletes. But Michigan now up there with Wisconsin, Purdue moving up into 3rd with 114, Michigan State 131, Indiana 137.
And in that top 5, you have Kusha, Hoare, Beadlescombe, Mao, the 4 we talked about in the individual race. So this is going to get serious pretty quickly here.
Yeah, so they ran the opening K. It's still not as fast as the first opening K. The first opening K was a 3:02, then they ran 3:13, then a 3:02, and now they run a 3:06. So still waiting for that sub 3K to see where they are, see where the race truly starts developing when they start picking it up. But you see a lot of Michigan.
Yeah, big downhill section here. Platnick, Jordy Hewitt, Jack Aho, Devin Meyer, and Isaac Harding are their 5 scorers. See, their strength has been keeping it together, so if they can keep that pack together, they're in a good position. But what's going to happen when Hoare starts to go, when Kusha starts to go? You see Ben Veach there of Indiana in the red. He's won Big Ten titles on the track, was second to Morgan McDonald in the 10,000 last spring, and then went on to win the 5,000 indoors. He won the 3,000 and was second to McDonald in the 5,000. Now that McDonald's gone, opens things up a bit in the conference.
Visually looking at this, it looks like Wisconsin is starting to bleed a bit, not having as many guys up front, but Michigan is still holding strong by keeping their core 4, core 5 there in that front group. Still waiting for Purdue to make their big move. Keeping an eye on their 4-5. We know what their trio can do. Their 4-5 are 23rd and 42nd, so Purdue's going to need their 5th, currently in 42nd, to have, you know, a big second half race in order to give them give themselves a chance for the team title.
And I'm guessing the top 3 is going to start to assert themselves as well the farther we get along. So closing in on 5,000 meters here.
Yeah, we'll be seeing that timing match shortly.
Kyle Mao of Indiana joining Beach. So there we have the big 2 that we mentioned before.
So you see these tight turns right there on the tree. So 5K split. Wisconsin taking the lead back from Michigan. Wisconsin with 50. Michigan 67. Purdue 105.
Indiana in 4th. So the 4 teams we expected are in the top 4.
So Purdue's number 5 is still 41st right now, and in order for them to really get up there with Indiana, Michigan, and Wisconsin, they're going to need their 5th man to show up and drop at least 20 spots to get themselves in position.
Yeah, Wisconsin 2, 4, 11, 13, and 20. Jackson Sharp, their 5th man, and then they have Seth Hirsch 5 spots behind him. So this lead is 17 points. Things are going to thin out. Looks like they're starting to push a little more here.
Yeah, that last K was a 2:56. So Couchet of Nebraska decided to start picking it up. And, you know, looking at the top 4 right now, Couchet, Hoare, Beetlescombe, and Hacker, all the main favorites there in that top 4 as the pace has been pushed.
And I'm trying to get a read on the rest of Purdue's big 3 to see how many they have in there. I see 1, 2, and then I see a 3rd back there as well. Oh, sorry, I see their 4th then too. So I think Purdue's in a pretty good spot here too.
Yeah, they have 4 in the top 25. Again, their 5th, though, is 41st at the 5K split. So they need their 5th to really close in the final 3K to get themselves in the mix for the team title.
So up front, Kusha, Hoare, Mao, Veach, Beetlescombe, Olin Hacker, Jarrett Carpenter, and then that looks like Alec Baston from Minnesota. Then we got 2 more from Purdue, a bunch of Michigan and Wisconsin.
So Wisconsin's top 5 all in there, which is good for them.
And you don't have to look far behind to see Michigan. You see Kevin Sullivan, the Michigan coach there, cheering his group on. He knows how close they are to pulling this off. And
there's Purdue's 5th right there. So Purdue's 5th needs to make a big move to get themselves in the mix. Because right now, Wisconsin with 50 points, Michigan 67, Purdue 105 at that 5K split. But we're now coming up on 6K. Ooh, looks like the kids' cart almost ran into the runners there.
Yeah, be careful. Be
Watch
careful.
out for babies on board.
So Kusha at the front, pushing now. Oliver Hoare looks really relaxed next to him. We're going to get these 6K splits and updates for you.
So Wisconsin has their top 5 in the top 18. Wisconsin with 55 points. Michigan with 69 points with their top 5 in the top 22. Indiana now moving up with 97 points. Purdue is 3rd, though, with 83. So Purdue's 5th is now 37th, so it dropped 4 more spots. But Wisconsin 55, Michigan 69, Purdue 83, Indiana 97. So Wisconsin still holding on to that early lead. They put everyone up front, and they're staying up front right now with their top 5 in the top 20.
And I don't see, on the 6K split for Indiana, I don't see Ben Veach on the split. And I don't know if that's because the timing mat missed him or if he dropped off completely. But that would be a big development. Yeah, he's on the screen right there. So I think Indiana's score is going to shift a bit there because they have their number 2 as 14th, Arjun Jha. But you see Veach is in there in 6th place, so that's just a missed timing mat. So that's gonna change things dramatically. I don't know if it would be enough right now to get them in front, but that's going to drop Indiana's score quite a bit. So Oliver Hoare now at the front with about a mile to go, less than a mile to go. Kusha, Mao, Beetlescombe, Carpenter, Veach.
Yeah, it looks like Veach hasn't been in the results the entire time. So, can't go off the computers now. We're going to have to hold tight to see where Indiana, because that means Indiana's 5th is really 28th. And that changes things a lot. That tracks about 30 from their score, so they're right in the mix to win it if Veach can stay there in that top 10.
Great individual race shaping up. Oliver Hoare going for Big Ten title number 6 and has some distance now between himself, George Kusha, and Kyle Mao. Everybody trying to respond. But this is a powerful move here for Oliver Hoare. Won it 2 years ago. And we are about a K to go.
Yeah, and Hoare's now putting it on right now. He ain't playing any games. He's not going to wait to the final 200 or 300. He wants to make that hard move basically with 1,200 meters to go. And they just ran a 2:39 last K. So they're pushing it.
He's moving. Remember, a year ago, put a scare into Morgan McDonald, I think it was fair to say, which would have been a huge upset. McDonald clawed back, went on to win the national title. But this time it is Oliver Hoare's turn. He's about 800 meters to go from another Big Ten title.
So Veach is back in the results. So we'll see where they land now at 7K. Looks like Wisconsin 53, Indiana 68, Michigan 79, Purdue 84.
Kusha in second. Then it's Mao, Beetlescombe, Veach, Carpenter, Hacker, Eckstein, Baston, and Oliver Hoare doesn't look any worse for wear at this point, and he looks like he's going to take this thing with a long drive. Sometimes it's a little bit deceptive from the head-on shot to know just how big that lead is.
And it looks like, Oliver made like a big move to try to make that separation, and then it's not pushing it as hard as he was, 300 meters ago, but now because he has that separation, he can kind of just like cruise and just maintain that 20, 30 meter lead over George Couchet in order to win it. Even George Couchet has separated himself from the rest of the field as well. Yeah,
it's a clear 1-2-3 right now with Hoare, Kusha, Mao, then
that's Beetlescombe.
Yeah, Beetlescombe, Veach, Carpenter, Hacker, and the rest. So here is Oliver Hoare of Wisconsin. You get a good shot at the rest of the field. Remember, through 7K, Wisconsin had a 15-point lead over Indiana, with Michigan 11 points back of the Hoosiers. We knew these 4 teams were going to be close.
Yeah, and this is a good shot because you can see the white jerseys. Wisconsin, again, with the lead, going up against Indiana. See the 2 Indiana bodies behind see Wisconsin's 3 right there? That's their, I believe they're 3, 4, 5. And then Indiana's about, 10 meters back? They need to close that in the final 400 in order to win this team title.
Yeah, things can change quickly, but at front, there is no doubt it is Oliver Hoare. And Oliver Hoare alone and running to this Big Ten title. Oliver Hoare of Wisconsin is going to win his 6th Big Ten championship for the Badgers, and just an impressive show of range for the NCAA 1500-meter champion. George Kusha of Nebraska is pumped with his 2nd place finish. Beetlescombe up for 3rd. Then it's Veach, Carpenter, and Mao. Here's Olin Hacker. That's Wisconsin's 2nd.
So right now Wisconsin has 8 points. Indiana has 10. Purdue 13. So they all have their top duos in. So right now it's Wisconsin 8, Indiana 10, Purdue 13.
So there's 3 for Purdue, 3 for Indiana, 3 for Wisconsin, then 4 for Wisconsin.
So now it's Wisconsin 36 with their 4 in. Indiana 41, Michigan 57, and Wisconsin 56. I think Wisconsin's going to win it.
Should be enough. We'll wait, though, to get official.
We have to wait where Indiana's 5th comes in. Waiting on Indiana's 5th.
Looks like they're just crossing right now.
Yep, so Indiana's 5th is not going to do it for them. It's going to be Wisconsin, your team champions unofficially, with 56 points. Indiana 70, Michigan 78, Purdue 82.
Close battle there, but great runs for Wisconsin. Olin Hacker, the senior, has a clutch finish right there. Eidenshank, another senior, 13th, and then a freshman, Jackson Sharp, in 15th, and then Shoaib Azlijwali in 20th. Clinches it for the Badgers. So, I mean, a good run for them earlier this year, Gordon. I mean, they finished behind all these teams at Peony, and then at Nuttycombe, Purdue and Indiana both beat them. So they finally get a win over Purdue and Indiana at the most critical time of the year.
Yeah, and I really think the reason why Wisconsin did better today than they have previous is because of their younger guys learning. You know, Hoare, Hacker, and Eidenshank have been through the ringer multiple times. They have the experience, but Sharp, true freshman, Shiab, you know, a sophomore, they haven't had that big game running experience, and I think they need to take a few L's at previous invitations before they really show up to run where they can be, and that's what they did. They showed up when it counted most at the Big Ten championships, and they win it with a team score of 56 points, putting their top 5 in the top 20.
So Wisconsin goes back-to-back. Indiana 2nd. Again, these are unofficial. Michigan 3rd, and then Purdue in 4th, just 4 points behind. So 2, 3, and 4 separated by 12 points there. Very, very close. But the questions coming in about how this team race would shake out, I mean, Wisconsin answered it resoundingly there to get another Big Ten title, as you see the rest of the top 10 and the top 50 individuals there on your screen.
He's busy.